Hello investors and traders, and welcome to the Midweek Report. I'm AJ Monte, and this is a one-year daily candle chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, ticker symbol DIA. We are just a couple of minutes out before the market closes, and as you can see here, we have a pivot forming in DIA where last Friday, if you recall, I said we would most likely go up a little bit on Monday and Tuesday and start to pull back. So what I did is I carried my downside target from this point here, which is $400.52. I carried that downside target over so that you wouldn't have to strain too much and seeing that little data box right there. So my downside target is still in place. We are awaiting the earnings announcement from Nvidia after the close here, and that will most likely put pressure on the markets. I believe that even if they beat the earnings expectation, I think you're going to see investors selling into the news, especially those option traders who have had profits built into the position itself. I think that they'll start taking some profits, and that could put some downside pressure on the overall markets as a whole. So that is DIA's downside target still in place. If we look at IWM, same thing. I said we would most likely go up a little bit on Monday and or Tuesday. We went up on Monday. We're starting to pull back. We did gap down yesterday, so that might be a little bit of a factor as that gap will most likely fill. But if it does fill, that will act as a resistance point here and eventually pushing the markets back down. Down below, you can see as I magnify that, we have an official sell signal on the stochastic, and down below, the blue line crossing below that red line is what generates a sell signal right there. So both of the oscillators are showing a sell, and that downside target in IWM is still down at $206.47. And we're just 1 second away from that market closing. There we go. We got the closing bell. And then we'll take a look to see if Nvidia comes out with earnings while I'm doing this report. If you look at QQQ, same story. My downside target was carried on over from this low here at 461.69. We are getting very close to hitting that target. Down below, you can see that we are not far away from the blue line crossing the zero line. That's that black line. What does that mean? Well, when the CCI crosses below the zero line, also known as the momentum line, we generally get continuation of selling pressure, as that is an added sell signal, which puts pressure on the sell side, obviously. And you can see what happened back here. This was back on July 16th. The momentum line crossed below, and then what happened, we saw a massive sell-off that followed the last time we crossed below the zero line there. So we'll have to see. My downside target, again, like I said, is down at 461.69. I'm not moving that at all. Remember, we're coming up to a 3-day weekend, and we might have some of these bulls selling out ahead of the 3-day weekend, and that profit taking, again, could put some pressure on the markets. Looking at SPY, downside target still in place at 543.88. That too was carried over from this target price here. Look down below, we see an increase in the volume there on the way down. So we have a lower high, much lower low today on SPY on higher volume. The increase in volume tells us that the sellers are getting more motivated. In addition to that, we do have a sell signal being generated right there, which is the %K, the blue line, crossing below the %D, which is the red line. That's what generates the sell signal. So we got that in place. And look at how the CCI crossed with the sell signal 2 days before the sell signal was generated on the stochastic. That's one of the reasons why I like the CCI best of all, is because it's a little bit more sensitive to the price action, and it generally gives buy and sell signals ahead of the stochastic. Look back here, you could see that the CCI was a day early in crossing with a buy signal, and it wasn't long after that where the stochastic crossed above the D right there and made the buy signal, and then we saw the rally after that. So the sell signals are in place, increase in volume, gap below the market, which has an 80% chance of filling. And we'll have to see. That's right around my price target right there, 543.88. So we'll have to see. Once that gap fills, we could see a little bit of a bounce, as most of the time when gaps fill, prices reverse. So if the gap is filling on the downside, we'll most likely get a bounce off of a short-term support level at that area. So if you're short, that could be a place for you to start covering and taking profits out of the market from those bearish positions. Looking at VIX, which is the volatility index, and you have right here a nice green candle. I am not moving that upside target. My upside target on the VIX is 23.89. And look down below. We are just so close to crossing over that momentum line on the VIX. Once that crosses, again, we get generally 2 to 4 days of price action in the direction of the cross. So let's take a look at Nvidia here. Let's take a look at the 1 minute chart, see if there's any action yet. No, not yet, but you can see that each minute that clicks by, you could almost feel the tension. I would not be surprised at all to see the market makers try to manipulate this either up or down. And it looks like we're getting some action to the downside here already. And a lot of times what you'll see is in the after hour session, we get the volume that trades a lot thinner than during regular market hours. So it's a lot easier to manipulate or push the prices down. Sometimes you'll see the market makers push the price down like you're seeing right now in an effort to buy it on a pop after the news has been released. And you can see with the selling into the market, I don't see any news out on whether or not the earnings has been announced, but you could see, again, there is pressure coming into the market. Now, if they beat the earnings expectations and beat the revenue targets, again, there might be some selling coming into the markets tomorrow. If the stock gaps up, I'm giving you both of these scenarios here. If the stock gaps up on the opening tomorrow, they might sell into that, and the option traders have a big say in the volatility as they continue to trade the market. And you can see these are the 2-day options. The option traders right now, as we are looking at it, they're looking for a move up or down by $13. You see the plus or minus 13 right there. And so the option traders are most likely buying the straddle. They're buying the calls and the puts. And they don't really care which way it goes as long as it goes big in their direction. And so here we go. We got a lot of volatility starting to kick in already. We had a little bit of a push lower. Now we have this green candle showing up, and it looks like they're starting to get in the mix of it all here. So we're going to have to see what happens tomorrow. Remember, tonight from 6 to 7 p.m., I will be going through my rapid fire stock analysis session, where my goal is to look at and analyze 60 stocks in that 1 hour. Hopefully you can make it. We have a 15-day trial that's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to the front page of our website and subscribe. We don't take any credit cards at all. We don't play that game. You may have heard me say that before. We don't play that game of taking your credit card and then putting the pressure on you of having to cancel after 15 days. If you like it, great. Stick with us. If not, at least you got a 2-week education on how to read these charts. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you on the next video. Remember, Monday is a holiday. We have a 3-day weekend coming up. I will be putting the weekly market report out on Friday after the close. And with that, I'll talk to you on the next video. So long.